Okay, good evening, everyone. I'm now going to call to order the July 27th, 2021 regular town board meeting. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Present.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Aye. Oh,
Councilman
here. I'm
McPartland.
here.
Here.
Supervisor Syed.
Here. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. We're now going to move on to approval of the minutes. First, we have the June 22nd, 2021 minutes. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Are there any changes to these minutes? Okay, with no changes, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? And those minutes are approved. We're now going to move on to the public hearings. We're going to open the first public hearing, and I'll have the clerk please call that first public hearing.
A public hearing regarding amendments to Chapter 207, Town of the Town Code of the Town of Niskuna, entitled Vehicle Recreation.
Thank you. So the first public hearing is now open if anyone wishes to speak. If anyone wishes to speak during the first public hearing, you could do so now. Okay, with no one present who wishes to speak, and I also did not receive any emailed comments, I'm going to close the first public hearing. We're going to move on to the second public hearing. So clerk, please call the second public hearing.
A public hearing regarding the proposed sewer district extension number 125 to the Town of Niskuna Sewer District number 6.
Thank you. So the second public hearing is now open if anyone wishes to speak. And if anyone wishes to speak during the second public hearing, you can do so now. Okay, seeing no one present who wishes to speak, I also did not receive any emailed comments for the second public hearing. I'm going to close the second public hearing. We'll move on to the third public hearing. Will the clerk please call the third?
A public hearing regarding an application for a special use permit for a telecommunications antenna array to be placed on an existing tower located at 1 Research Circle.
Thank you. The third public hearing is now open if anyone wishes to speak. And if anyone wishes to speak during the third public hearing, you can do so now. Okay, seeing no one present wishing to speak during the third public hearing, I also received no emailed comments for the third public hearing, so I'm going to close the third public hearing. We're going to move on to the fourth public hearing. If the clerk could please call the fourth.
A public hearing regarding an application for a special use permit for a purposed mixed-use building located at 2147 Eastern Parkway.
Thank you. The fourth public hearing is now open. If you would like to speak, you can do so now. Last call on the fourth public hearing. If you would like to speak, you can do so now. Seeing no one present who wishes to speak during the fourth public hearing, I also did not receive any emailed comments for the fourth public hearing. I will close it at this time. We'll move on to the fifth public hearing. If the town clerk could please call the fifth.
A public hearing regarding proposed water district extension number 171 to the Town of Niskuna Water District number 1.
Thank you. The fifth public hearing is now open. If you would like to speak during the fifth public hearing, you can do so now. Seeing no one present who wishes to speak during the fifth public hearing, I also did not receive any emailed comments. I will close it at this time. We'll move on to the sixth public hearing. If the clerk could please call the sixth.
A public hearing regarding proposed sewer district extension number 126 to the Town Niskuna Sewer District number 6.
Thank you. The sixth public hearing is now open. If you would like to speak, you can do so now. If you would like to speak for the sixth public hearing, you can do so now. Okay, seeing no one present who wishes to speak during the sixth, I did not receive any emailed comments regarding the sixth public hearing. I will close it at this time. We'll move on to the seventh public hearing. If the clerk could please call the seventh.
A public hearing regarding proposed drainage district extension number 36 to the town of Niskuna stormwater drainage system.
Thank you. And the seventh public hearing is now open. If you would like to speak, you can do so now. And last call on the seventh public hearing. If you would like to speak, you can do so now. Okay, seeing no one present who wishes to speak, I did not receive any emailed comments for the seventh public hearing, so I'm going to close that public hearing. That concludes our public hearing section. We're going to move on to privilege of the floor. So I'm going to open privilege of the floor. If you would like to speak, you can approach the lectern, state your name and address for the record.
Good afternoon. My name is Norman Schilling. I live at 1400 Royal Road at the, near the intersection with Rosendale and Rose Hill and Row Road. So I'm at the bottom of, kind of at the bottom of Row Road there, which is adjacent to the creek. Matter of fact, I think the creek runs through my property, the infamous, the notorious creek. We've had several points I want to make concerning that creek, and really comes down to responsibility for what we do with it, what's going to be the maintenance, all right? And in case you haven't noticed, we've had a lot more rain. Have you noticed that? It's been increasing frequency, increasing intensity, and of course that brings it to high urgency that we define responsibilities of who's going to maintain it, and that's to avoid any future catastrophic flooding to me and to my neighbors' houses and their properties. And let me go back to what my understanding is of responsibility. It was after a flooding event that we had, then the town supervisor said to me when he was investigating, said that I, as a property owner, was responsible for 13 feet either side of the creek, but not the creek itself. And I've done that. As a matter of fact, it was earlier this summer that we had 4 trees removed at a cost of about $2,500. But I think what I really want to get to is finding out, having some identification and clarification of who's responsible for the creek bed. Like I said, what the supervisor said back then was you're responsible for either side, 13 foot. But now we come down to who's responsible for the creek bed itself. Making the property owners responsible for the creek bed is just not going to work. And the reason is that those at higher grade and further up on Row Road are not going to they will not actually see the flooding that happens on the lower portion of it that impacts those downstream neighbors. They lack the motivation to maintain the creek, and it's not bugger your neighbor. It's simply just human nature. They don't see it. They're not going to take care of it because that does take an effort. Therefore, what I'm saying, it makes sense to me that that the township assume responsibility for the creek itself, and that amounts to removing debris, leaves, and sometimes garbage that people put in the creek, and unfortunately I see dumped into the creek. What I'm asking is that the town board clarify town's responsibility, and that responsibility includes sufficient scheduling and resources for clearing the creek bed itself to maintain clear flow throughout its entire length and be ready for what we can expect to be stronger storms. So finally, I guess what I'm trying to say is that let's not have another Germany or Belgium here. And I thank you for your attention.
Thank you.
I'm Douglas McFadden. This is my wife, Cecilia McFadden. We live at 1388 Row Road in Niskuna. We've been there almost 36 years. We've, since 2003, I think we had a huge flood around August the 4th of 2003. A lot of damage was done. It got so bad that that a couple of houses, one house in particular, had a wall actually moved, and the house was temporarily condemned. So it was pretty bad. After that flood, the town did clean up the creek. And they not only cleaned up the creek, but they cleaned up the areas on either side of the creek. And in fact, we had some conversations, and I think my wife used to say you might want to talk this regarding Joe Landry and what Joe Landry, the prior supervisor, had to say about maintenance of the creek. Do you want to?
Yes, he maintained that there would be a crew there spring and fall. And it happened for a few years and then it slowly disappeared. And unless you call and then you go on a waiting list and when they can get to it. And last year they said because of the COVID, it wouldn't be done. I personally took 22 garbage cans full of debris from the culvert that is next to our house, really. And this year, the thing is, every other tree seems to be in need of coming down. We took 9 trees out of our property, and there's 6 outside our gate, adjacent to the creek. So we've had the town supervisor involved, or the assistant, Brian, who sent the engineer, who actually said he was on the job when the house flooded down the street. Then we had, who else? The town,
Well, Mr.
Town
Briggs,
lawyer?
the town lawyer, came to visit us
and he told us it was our responsibility.
to maintain the on either side of the creek bed, if you will. The town would be responsible for the removal of the debris that's in the creek. But unless we nudged the town, and we nudged them a lot, it was a long time, COVID accepted, but it was a long time before anything was done. And we had a crew show up, and it was a young man, very polite, and said, well, Mr. McFadden, we're not going to do anything about the sides of the creek. That's your problem. But we will clean out the creek. So about 1 or 2 hours later, he knocks on the door and says the job's done. Well, if he did, this is one efficient crew, because for one thing, there was actually it's a, what do you call the thing?
Culvert?
Not a culvert. It was a thing to hold bricks and blocks. It was a wooden frame right in the creek. Hopefully they removed it. I don't know. But I mean, I guess where we are is, if what we were of the impression that the town was going to maintain the creek and also the sides of it. At least I think that's what you understood from Joe Landry. We know there's new management, and so maybe things have changed. I guess what we want to know is what has changed.
And
Why aren't you? Why is it the neighbors that have to worry about, these trees? Because there's a lot of dead trees, most of them ash trees, and as you all know, there's an ash borer that's been killing these trees. And yes, we spent about $4,000 removing those 9 trees. We've got another $2,500 to go to take care of 6 dead ash trees. So this is all on us, and we're paying huge taxes. And I would tell you, we aren't getting a lot for our money, in my opinion, living here 36 years. So that's where I'm coming from. Do you have anything else to add? No. And like Mr. Schilling, go ahead.
The other, if something changed, shouldn't us as taxpayers be notified? Or, that's why I don't understand, all of a sudden it's up to you, and well, something changed, but we don't know anything about it.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Privilege of the floor is still open if anyone would like to speak. And privilege of the floor is still open if anyone else wishes to speak. Okay. Seeing no one left willing to speak, I'm going to close privilege of the floor. We're going to move on to our committee reports. We're going to begin with Councilman Delarada.
Thank you, Supervisor. As you know, I chair the Economic Development Committee, and we meet the first Friday of every month, although July was the second Friday due to the July 4th holiday. We will be meeting the first Friday of August, which is August 6th at 8:30 here in the Schaefer Room. Tonight, we have a resolution that is going to appoint 3 people to some of our committees as well as 1 alternate. I am very thankful to the people that have volunteered on these committees. As I've said many times before, this is a great way to get involved, and it's a great way to shape the policy here in the town that you live in. So I do want to thank those people. Rivers Ledge is still progressing very rapidly. They're hoping to get their first apartments in and let it in October, and then continuing hopefully 1 building a month thereafter. The Climate Smart Communities Task Force has a grant submittal on for approval tonight. That's a little bit later. And also, they've been working hard on making Niska Day a zero waste event and continuing their outreach to the public on EV vehicles. I want to thank Councilwoman McGraw for all of her support and help on these initiatives, as she works very well with the crew, and she's also been very assistive in the EV vehicles and the charging stations. Thank you. The Conservation Advisory Council has put their pesticide-free lawn signs on display in Town Hall. Definitely feel free to stop in and take a look at the program and what the benefits are. Of course, this is not mandatory, but if the residents who don't use pesticides want to let their neighbors know, they can have a sign on their front lawn, and hopefully it will encourage other neighbors to have a pesticide-free front lawn for pets and children and the community as a whole. The building department is still receiving a very high number of building permits, and residential construction, of course, is still very active right now. They're doing a very good job in trying to keep up with this high post-COVID demand. I do want to thank them, and I also want to thank the residents' patience in getting these permits done. And hopefully we will see all on Friday, August 6th at 8:30 in the Schaefer Room. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're now going to move on to Councilwoman McGraw.
Thank you very much, Madam Supervisor. I just have a couple of items from the Public Works Committee. We've begun work, and everybody is really very busy with this project. It's been going on for a long time now, but it's begun in earnest, which is the major upgrades to our water plant. This is a significant effort for our community, and also our well field. As many of you know, in some instances, we pump our own water here, and those wells are critical to our community and ensuring that they are well maintained, and we have to redevelop them from time to time, which means digging new holes and making sure all the equipment inside and the plumbing inside work. So that has been going on for this summer, and it will continue through next summer. So that's a very important initiative for the community. And there'll be about 5 of those wells that will be redeveloped as part of our regular maintenance and everything that is required to ensure that in addition to the water that we get from the city of Schenectady, we have our own water right here from Niskuna. Tonight, we're going to be voting on appointment to our maintenance worker at the Water and Sewer Department. Obviously, these are very difficult times in getting really good employees that are willing to come to the town and willing to do the kind of work that we need. Maintenance workers are particularly important to the work that we try to do, especially water and sewer. So I want to thank Shane Blatnick for being interested in working with us and really doing a great job through the interview process, and the whole team that interviewed him. I want to thank Matt Yetto, as always, so thank you. We are moving forward in the Country Club neighborhood with a sewer lining project, is what we're calling it. Obviously, there are parts of town where the infrastructure is just older than other parts of town. This is going to shore up our sewer system through the country club neighborhood. It's something that's, it needs to get done. We've been in regular communication with the neighbors there, in obtaining easements to get into the yards to make sure that the sewer lines that run through folks' backyards are shored up and protected and improved. So I want to thank the whole team, and it's everybody from water and sewer and the engineering department and the legal department. So thank you to our two town attorneys for everything that they have done to ensure that this project will move forward. Some other items that are going on, things are going quite well at the pool this summer. I think we could all hope that it rains a little bit less, but just thank you to Ray Smith and his team, Ronnie and Charlie, who are up there daily, ensuring that everything moves along at the town pool and things are going well. We had a dive-in movie the other night. It was gangbusters. It was a movie that the kids all watched in the pool. It was made possible because of Lori Peretti and her team at Community Programs. And I can only tell you that everybody's been begging to have another one before the end of the summer, and they're just so grateful for the opportunity to do something just different and cool. So thank you to Community Programs for that. I think many people saw that the swim team has been collecting peanut butter and jelly for the food pantry at Niski Now, and that has just really been unbelievably successful. So thank you everybody who came out to the farm market to donate or has dropped it off at the pool or at other places. So thank you. We're going to have a recycling event, and this was a casualty of COVID last year. Our recycling events at town are always very successful. We take electronics, old TVs and monitors and things like that, and obviously shredding and secure shredding of paper documents. So we will be doing that again in October, and I think that that will be something that a lot of folks will mark on their calendar and they will join us. And this year, we have always done it at Town Hall, but this year we'll be doing it at the Recycling Center. So we look to see people over the back of Blatnick Park. Tomorrow night, we're going to be meeting, the town attorney and I are going to be meeting with the folks who live in the Baker Woods neighborhood. This is a park district, a taxing district in town that the folks who live around this park just have some questions, and hopefully we have some answers, and they are looking to be a little bit more organized around maintaining their park and things that they can do. Tomorrow night also is the Natural Resource Inventory Task Force meeting. I'll be going to that one from the Baker Street meeting. But that's a group of folks who have really taken on a very important project for our town to inventory all our town's natural resources. We had a meeting last month. We'll be meeting again tomorrow. They've been applying for grants and they're getting organized and they're bringing in consultants from out of town. And Laura is beside herself. She's so happy that it's moving along, and it's all the things she's always envisioned for this town. And it's a group of people who are just top notch and very committed to ensuring that we have enough trees and we have all the things that make our town very special. So we'll be doing that tomorrow at 6 o'clock in the gazebo. I think that's all I have, Madam Supervisor.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We're now going to move on to Councilman McPartlin.
Thank you, Supervisor. As you know, I chair the Police and Public Safety Committee. We met on July 6th here at Town Hall. Operationally, the chief reported that they made an arrest on the midnight shift over at the town pool. And the reason I bring this to everyone's attention is we want to thank our IT department, Seth Goldstein, and the department for putting up some cameras there to keep some of our town facilities safer and keep people that don't belong there out of there. So we want to thank you for that, Seth. The chief reports that the distribution of Lexapol policies that are in effect, and the department continues to work on the Lexapol policies. We're about a third of the way through those. Those are policies and training and procedures for our officers. We continue to test body cameras. It's the hope that the department at some point may be able to obtain a grant to get body cameras for our officers. We've gone through a third round of cameras and are going to be going to a fourth round of cameras, trying to get the best one for the department. Fleet and equipment wise, they're getting quotes for upfitting of the 2 new police cars that we have, and we sell off our old police cars to keep our fleet upgraded and get as much value for our old vehicles as possible. Our first tactical uniforms have been ordered, and we should be seeing those in very, very shortly. Town Hall, our locking system now is our new locking system has been installed here at Town Hall. Also with Seth Goldstein from our IT department. He's working on replacing some cameras here with better quality cameras. He's also obtained a new DVR system, or upgraded DVR system for Town Hall and the PDs. We continue to make upgrades there to, again, keep everyone safe. In that same vein, the cameras for the safety exchange zone outside have been installed. This is for our residents to come if they're doing business, if you will, on the internet and or exchanging things. We have a safe zone here at Town Hall with cameras where that can occur. Training wise, always training. The deputy chief is attending training right now with the Chiefs of Police Association in Queensbury. We also had patrolman relations in Wyman complete bike patrol school week. And as the weather gets better, we hope to see our officers out on bike patrols, getting closer to the community. Deputy chief met with Schenectady PD and SCSO for a countywide grant for CIT training for officers. Northern Rivers is taking the lead on this grant. Northern Rivers, we've partnered up with them to work with us. If we get into situations where we have people with mental health issues and things like that, we can use Northern Rivers, and we're looking to train our officers for dealing in those types of situations. Police One trainings, those are online trainings, continue every month with our officers. Citizen issues, Hummingbird Manor, we had a speed complaint there, so we're going to do another survey out there and increase our enforcement in that area. Taurus Road study was done as part of another citizen complaint in that area. Community events, the deputy chief and Sergeant Twitty continue to work with the Niskaday committee and planning on that. We work closely with them. Also, the fire departments from District 1 and District 2 are also working with the Niskaday committee because they're trying to do some different things this year because of COVID, different parades, different number of parades, those sort of things. So we continue to work with them. Town clerk, Michelle, reports that her friendly dog renewal letters went out a couple of weeks ago. And the reason we do this, it's a requirement by the New York State Ag and Markets Law that dogs need to be licensed and rabies vaccines have to be kept up to date. And it's important. And we've had good response from our residents here in the town for renewing this. When Michelle sends out the letters, getting their licenses, if their dog gets lost or something happens to a dog or a dog bites someone, we have those records. It makes it much easier for our officers and our dog warden to handle those situations. Personnel-wise, the PD is looking for some new people, officers, so we're looking into the possibility, the deputy chief is, of transfers into department. That would be a quick way for the department to get their staffing up. Our next meeting will be August 3rd at 8 a.m. Thank you.
Thank you very much. In lieu of my supervisor's report, I will be delivering the Highway Parks and Rec Committee report. So I'll begin with Highway Committee items. Crews have been prepping the next group of roads for paving, and the Edison Drive area is scheduled for paving this week, weather permitting. Tree crews have been out trimming continuously, and landscaping will begin this week on the roads that have already been paved. Yard waste pickup is progressing on schedule. For our community programs update, the Community Programs Department has been extremely busy this summer, and in June and July, there have been 867 registrations, with a number of our camps totally full, and there's also a wait list for some of them, so that's great news. We owe a huge thank you to all of the participants, and most especially the instructors who have been running these camps. Instructor Susan Manchester will be running an outdoor yoga program on Tuesdays through August 17th from 6 to 7 p.m. The fee is $8. Drop-ins are welcome. For more information on that program, you can refer to the town's website, which is niskuna.org. Our summer concerts have had a few weather delays, so we've been trying to hold as many as we possibly can. There is another concert this Thursday, so we're going to keep our fingers crossed that the weather complies. All of our concerts are held right here at Town Hall on the Town Hall Green, and they all begin at 7 p.m. Fall soccer registration is closing on August 1st. If anyone is interested in coaching or being a referee, you can contact Julie Lohr. For senior programs update, although the senior center was closed the first week of the month with a holiday, they used it to catch up on maintenance, weeding, decorating, and cleaning. It looks beautiful up there. Food and exercise programs continue to operate well, consistently garnering compliments and appreciation from the public. The senior center began a water aerobics class. It meets each Tuesday at the town pool. They've been averaging 13 people who are attending on a given day. And given its popularity, it's been extended through August. So that's great news. The senior center hosted 3 evening mahjong teaching sessions as well as an art class. Each of those were very well attended. Because of that, they have a new mahjong group to begin playing at the senior center in August. They also hosted 2 speakers who are represented by Medicare and Centers Healthcare, and they even hosted a flutist for the first time, which was very highly enjoyed. Our next Highway Parks and Rec Committee meeting is August 4th at 8:15 a.m. in the Schaefer Room. And I do want to just remind everybody that our all of our town board meetings, councils, and committees are now held in person. So if they're not here in the town hall boardroom, they're on the second floor in the Schaefer Room. So just keep that in mind. We had a really long stretch of Google Meets that were virtual. A lot of members from the public liked attending those because it was a click of a button and they could be in the meeting with all of us. But now we're back in person. So everybody just remember that, refer to our web meeting calendar for times and locations for all those meetings. That concludes our committee reports and my very brief supervisor's report. We're going to move on to resolutions. We will begin with Resolution 2021-163, sponsored by Supervisor Syed. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution amending resolution number 2021-76.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes.
I just, before she calls the vote, I think my name was supposed to be on this resolution because I'm actually the person who put this forward. So John, thank you for seconding it. And Michelle, will you just,
I think on the actual resolution, it does have your name.
okay, that's what I just looked at the
Yeah.
cover page.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
All right. So I'll just correct the record right now that it was co-sponsored by
Thank you.
Supervisor Syed and Councilwoman McGraw.
Right, because this is the change that we made to the committee
Yep.
itself, that's what I raised, so.
Yep.
And I apologize for not raising it sooner,
Oh,
so
that's okay.
thank you to everyone who tried.
Okay.
So you can call the
Four
vote.
ayes.
Great. And this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2021-164, sponsored by Councilwoman McGraw. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution approving the 2021 spring residential commercial utility bill reconciliation.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes.
4 ayes.
And this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2021-165, sponsored by Councilwoman McGraw. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution authorizing the supervisor to enter into various fence and shed easements.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes.
4 ayes.
And this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2021-166, sponsored by Councilwoman McGraw. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution authorizing safety training for the town's water and sewer department employees.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes.
4 ayes.
And this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2021-167, sponsored by Supervisor Syed. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution authorizing the acceptance of grant funds.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes.
4 ayes.
And this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2021-168, sponsored by Supervisor Syed. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution authorizing certain budgetary modifications.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes.
4 ayes.
And this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2021-169, sponsored by Supervisor Syed. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution authorizing the acceptance of grant funds.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes.
4 ayes.
And this resolution passes. Next, we have the introduction of local law number 5 of 2021. The local law is in the packet. We have provided copies also on the table as you exit. Next resolution, 2021-170, sponsored by Supervisor Syed. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution calling for a public hearing on local law amending Chapter 27 of the Town Code of the Town of Niskayuna entitled Ethics.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes.
4 ayes.
And this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2021-171, sponsored by Councilwoman McGraw. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution approving corporate utility bills reconciliation.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes.
4 ayes.
And this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2021-172, sponsored by Councilman McFarland. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution authorizing the supervisor to enter into a MOU regarding CAP Court.
Thank you. Do I have a second? I will
Second.
second. Councilwoman McGraw will second.
Sure.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes.
4 ayes.
Yeah, this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2021-173, sponsored by Councilwoman McGraw. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution awarding maintenance contracts for generators at the wastewater treatment plant.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes.
4 ayes.
And this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2021-174, sponsored by Supervisor Syed. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution to certify the current base proportions to be used as tax class shares for municipal and school district levies.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes.
4 ayes.
And this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2021-175, sponsored by Supervisor Syed. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution to clarify the adjusted base proportions to be used as tax class shares for municipal and school district levies.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes.
4 ayes.
And this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2021-176, sponsored by Councilwoman McGraw. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution calling for a public hearing regarding Dish Network placing equipment on the town's water tower.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes,
4 ayes.
and this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2021-177, sponsored by Councilwoman McGraw. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution hiring a recycling helper.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion?
I just want to thank Matt Yetto. I know ongoing, just trying to keep this very important resource of the town staffed to the level that it requires has taken a lot lately. So thank you, Matt, for being able to fill this position right away and do what needed to get done to ensure we lost no services, there was no interruption of services.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes,
4 ayes.
and this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2021-178, sponsored by Councilman Delarada. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution appointing individuals to certain town committees.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion?
Yes, just briefly, I do want to thank the following people for volunteering for the committee. We are appointing Andrew Millspaw and Catherine Kuzman, and they will be serving on the Complete Streets Committee. Also, Mickey Weishold has been appointed to the Conservation Advisory Council, and William Stein will be an alternate member to the Zoning Board of Appeals. I understand that these committees are time-consuming, and I want to thank each volunteer.
Great, thank you. Is there any further discussion?
I just want to thank Laura. It's also time consuming for Laura to vet all the resumes and reach out to folks and let them know and get them certainly trained and brought up to speed. So I want to thank Laura and her team for ensuring that this is an outstanding group of people. And I know that they will really add a lot to life in town of Niskuna. So thank you.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion?
Yes, thank you, Laura, and your team for doing this, and for the residents for offering their services to the town. It's
Absolutely.
very, very much appreciated.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes,
4 ayes.
and this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2021-179, sponsored by Councilman Delarada. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution taking action on a special use permit for telecommunication antenna array located at 1 Research Circle.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion?
May I just make a brief correction? to
Absolutely.
The text of the resolution. My
Sure.
name is Laura Darling. I represent the applicant in this proceeding. The applicant is actually Cellco Partnership, doing business as Verizon Wireless.
Okay.
The underlying landowner is General Electric. So in the first whereas clause and the further resolved clause, if we could change General Electric to Cellco Partnership, doing business as Verizon Wireless, please.
Okay. And then if I could just ask you to turn around and that very fantastic woman right there waving her hands and just tell her that.
Yes.
That would be great. Thank you very much.
Great. Okay, so I'm going to motion to amend as stated. Exactly. I can repeat that.
And thank you, Elena. And thank you, Laura is running in the back of the room as well. Thank you.
Thank you all. So on my motion to amend, do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Will the clerk please call the roll on the amendment?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes,
4 ayes to amend.
and the amendment passes. And now we'll vote on the motion as amended.
Councilman Delarada.
Yes, this is just to let the folks know, this is a wireless antenna that is going on an existing water tower. That's why most likely it's been very non-controversial. It'll pretty much go unnoticed, and it will also allow other wireless telecommunications to go on that existing water tower also if needed. But I will vote yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes,
4 ayes.
and the motion as amended passes. Next resolution, 2021-180, sponsored by Councilman Delarada and Councilwoman McGraw. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution approving an outside user agreement with the owners of 2228 Webster Lane.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion?
Yes, this is a $65,000 grant, and I do want to thank,
Oh, really
I'm
quickly.
sorry, we're on two different things.
oh, I'm sorry.
Yes.
John, you're in the
We're
right
on
place.
180. Well, we just
Yep.
called 181, so we'll vote on
Okay.
181.
We'll go back to 180. So 180 is a resolution authorizing the submittal of a Climate Smart Communities grant.
Yep.
Oh, I'm sorry.
John, you can continue.
Yes, that is a grant that was secured, fortunately, by Laura Robertson and Isma Alam. They've done a lot of work on grants, and that would bring in approximately $65,000 to use on our emissions inventory and to continue on with a climate smart community. And I will vote yes.
Excellent. Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll? We have John voting yes.
Councilwoman McGraw,
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin,
Aye.
Supervisor Syed,
Yes.
4 ayes.
And this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2021-181, sponsored by Councilwoman McGraw. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution approving an outside user agreement with the owners of 2028 Webster Lane.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada,
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw,
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Supervisor Syed,
Yes.
4 ayes.
And this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2021-182, sponsored by Supervisor Syed. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution appointing individuals to the Town of Niskayuna's Police Reform Implementation Task Force.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion?
We had a lot of participants on this task force. There was quite a few applicants. They were all very well qualified. And I do want to thank the people that volunteered, just like with all of our other committees. This is time consuming and important. And again, I thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion?
Also want to thank all the members of the community for the resumes that were sent in. We had quite a few for this particular committee, and we want to thank the ones that have been selected for volunteering their time. We really do appreciate it.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? I will just note that this committee has its first meeting scheduled for August 11th at 8:15 a.m. It will take place right here in the Town Hall boardroom. So without further discussion, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada,
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw,
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin,
Aye.
Supervisor Syed,
Yes.
4 ayes.
And this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2021-183, sponsored by Councilwoman McGraw. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution appointing a maintenance worker in the town's water and sewer department.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada,
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw,
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin,
Aye.
Supervisor Syed,
Yes.
4 ayes.
And this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2021-184, sponsored by Councilwoman McGraw. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution hiring seasonal interns in the town's engineering department.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada,
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw,
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Supervisor Syed,
Yes.
4 ayes.
And this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2021-185, sponsored by Supervisor Syed. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution hiring seasonal workers in the Office of Community Programs.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion?
In our ongoing effort to get this right, it's almost August, but we're almost there. I want to thank Lori Peretti. For the most part, anybody who's listed here for the pool fall into one of two categories. They are just simply getting a title change because they are taking on more responsibility. Head lifeguards are something that are required by the state of New York if you hire lifeguards and employ lifeguards who are 15 years old. If you turn the page, we've got a whole bunch of new lifeguards, thanks to the lifeguard course that we took on. And we took on the responsibility for it in this town. And most of them are 15 years old. So there are a number of people who stepped up to be identified as a head lifeguard. That means they are 18 years old or older. But nothing about their employment status with the town changed other than them taking on that additional responsibility of head lifeguard. And I want to thank our new lifeguards that will help us staff the pool for the remainder of the summer in a safe way and without foregoing any hours of operation. So I want to thank all of them. I think this will be the final time we do this, but we'll see it again next month. So thank you, Lori Peretti. Thank you, Elena, for ensuring that we are getting there. And of course, as always, Ismet and her staff. So that's all I
Thank you.
have.
Great, thank you. Is there any further discussion?
Second.
So we have no further discussion. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman
Did we
Delarada.
second? Wait
Yeah,
for
we had a
second?
We already had a second.
Okay.
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
I'm going to abstain from this because my daughter is simply listed and impacts her in no way, but I will abstain from this resolution.
Okay. Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes,
3 ayes and 1 abstained.
and this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2021-186, sponsored by Supervisor Syed and Councilwoman McGraw. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution to authorize a lap swimmer's pass for the town pool.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion?
I just want to, again, thank Lori Peretti. I want to thank everybody who made this possible. In most part, all the people who were mentioned in the previous resolution. So Derek Wolf, who gets up at 5:30 in the morning to ensure that lap swimmers can come to the pool. The supervisor was kind enough to mention the water aerobics earlier. We were asked and residents reached out to me, and I'm hearing from them constantly, and they asked for water aerobics. And working with Lori Peretti and the team at the Senior Center, we have made water aerobics possible. The lap swimmers who do swim throughout the year at the high school pool for the last few summers, for about 5 years now, the pool at the high school has closed, and those lap swimmers have nowhere to go. So in order to help the high school and to ensure that those residents who really care about getting up at 5:30 in the morning and going to swim, we have offered lap swimming this year. But we needed to do this to ensure that we can take a fee from them, and the fee merely covers the staffing. And for anybody who's interested, it's a few mornings at 6 o'clock in the morning or at 10 o'clock on Saturdays. So, and we've got a hearty group that gets out there every morning, rain, shine, 50-degree weather. So come on down if you are interested.
Great, thank you. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes,
4 ayes.
and this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2021-187, sponsored by Councilman Delarada and Councilwoman McGraw. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution recognizing the formation of a natural resource inventory subcommittee for the CAC.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes,
4 ayes.
and this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2021-188, sponsored by Councilman Delarada and Councilwoman McGraw. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution authorizing site visits for the town of Niskuna charging stations.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes,
4 ayes.
and this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2021-189, sponsored by Councilwoman McGraw. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution hiring a summer employee to the Water and Sewer Department from the County Connect program.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes,
4 ayes.
and this resolution passes. Last resolution, 2021-190, sponsored by Supervisor Syed and Councilwoman McGraw. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution accepting ARPA virus local fiscal recovery fund monies.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion?
An enormous amount of work went into this, the advocacy for it, all the things that take place in order to ensure that this money is actually come in the door, and then everything that will be required to ensure that the second installment takes place. I want to thank Ismet Alam and her team because they do it with a smile on their face, and they ensure that all of this happens in a very timely manner. Residents of all the things we talk about, they care very much about this. And I think we all saw in various media outlets last night and today that people really do care about the fact that the federal money that they're hearing about every night on the national news is actually coming into their own town. So thank you, Ismet. Thank you to the legal team of Elena and Paul Briggs for all the things that they have done to ensure that this has happened. I want to thank the supervisor for helping me advocate for this because it takes a team to ensure that our town gets $2 million.
Absolutely. Thank you. I'd like to echo Councilwoman McGraw's sentiments. Huge thank you to the Comptroller's Office, most especially our Town Comptroller, Ismet Alam, who I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt was going to make sure that she put in all the necessary paperwork to make sure that we got our funding, and we did very quickly, actually. So we are ecstatic. But most importantly, this is a huge boon for our residents because this money is going to help improve our town. And the improvements are going to be things that our residents are going to be able to enjoy. So I'm sure I speak for all of our town board members when we say that that is the most important thing about this funding that we have received. Is there any further discussion?
Just briefly, I do want to thank the team. It really does take a team effort on this. This is huge. This is a good chunk of money. The advocacy of the supervisor and Councilwoman McGraw was excellent, and the work by our comptroller was just incredible. So thank you. This is very important.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion?
Yes, thank you, everyone. Fantastic job. And it doesn't just happen. And we know that, and our residents need to know that. And that's why we do say these things about everyone that gets involved in these things, because without you folks putting in all that hard work, we would have missed out, and that did not happen. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes,
4 ayes.
and this resolution passes. So before I entertain a motion to adjourn, I'm going to make a motion to enter into executive session pursuant to Public Officers Law, Section 105, subsection F, to discuss the employment history of a particular person or matters leading to the appointment, employment, promotion, demotion, discipline, suspension, dismissal, or removal of a particular person. Do I have a second on that motion?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion?
It has to do with an employment matter. We're not going to tell you what position it is.
So we have a second on the motion. Is there any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? We're now entered into executive session. At the conclusion of executive session, we will take up no further business and we will be adjourned for the evening. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful evening.